Welcome to Blaise the Trail podcast, bringing you authentic and vulnerable stories that will inspire you to breathe fire on this world and become your own hero. Here's your host, Blaise Hunter.
Hello, welcome to Blaise the Trail podcast. I'm Blaise Hunter, and I am a fertility expert. No, I don't help people get pregnant. This is a different type of expertise. I actually inspire women to birth confidence and self-worth, to birth their dreams, passions, and goals, as well as help them discover peace amongst infertility. After going through my own traumas and tragedies, dealing with a rare disease, and experiencing 3 miscarriages, I decided to take charge of my life and not let life happen to me, but rather become the hero of my own life. I am not barren. I continually birth my purpose every day. So that's why I've created this show, to demonstrate how even though we experience setbacks and disappointments, we still have a destiny to birth. We just need to blaze the trail and be expecting. This podcast will inspire you to lean into your hardships and allow them to be the vehicle that transports you into becoming the hero of your life, so you can breathe fire on this world. This week's episode is called Shame on You. And some points that we'll cover are how to silence the guilt and the shame during this pandemic, letting go of outside expectations, setting realistic goals for ourselves that align with our core values, how we can lean into the growing pains of this crisis, and also learning how lazy is the new black. I am a published author, international speaker, award-winning mental health advocate, fertility expert, and certified life coach. My coaching practice is based on the quote from Fred Devito, "What doesn't challenge you doesn't change you." I want to challenge myself and the world to take off the masks and get vulnerable so we can address root issues and grow. That's how we can transform into the best possible versions of ourselves. One thing that I have learned in all my research of personal growth and uncovering the challenges facing women is that shame and guilt are our Achilles heel. No matter what situation women are going through or that they're in the moment, we are constantly battling a war inside of ourselves. When we fall or we fail, the shame game comes into play. And even when we have a win, we still find something to feel guilty about. And now, with this global pandemic shutdown we're in, I'm beginning to see a massive surge of shame and guilt on women. Within hours of hearing schools were being closed down indefinitely, I saw numerous posts being flooded on Facebook all over social media and news feeds with schedules and timelines and links and posts on how to homeschool our children and be this rock star teacher. My first thought was, wow, what is the rush? Can we not just take a moment, people? Don't get me wrong. We all have to do what works best for our own families and situations, whether that's a looser schedule or a tighter one. We do have to do what's best for our unique situations. But why aren't we taking a pause to feel the pulse of the situation first? Why are we so reactive rather than sitting still and really observing and feeling what's going on before we take action? I think it's because women are doers, right? Like, we are doers. We get the job done. We rise amongst a crisis. That we almost activate our problem-solving capabilities so quickly, and instead we don't take the time to sense how we are truly feeling in the moment. Before we can silence the noise, though, we do have to allow ourselves to feel the experience. It's okay to take a pause and allow ourselves as women, as mothers, as wives, to feel how this pandemic is affecting us as a whole, us as a family, as a human society. It is incredibly important as well to allow space for your partner to feel and all of the emotions associated with this disruption. And it's most vital to carve out space for our children to know that it's okay to feel. They don't have the tools yet to sift through all these different emotions coming at them. And to them, everything that they know of has changed within a moment. I know sometimes for women to keep it all together, we just have to keep moving, keep pushing through. And we don't have time to feel because we got to solve the problem. We got to keep it all together. We're the glue. But we cannot afford to feel. It's never too late to just hit the pause button, like I said, and just give ourselves and our families and our children and the people around us the safe space to feel. Feel the frustration, feel the grieving process of things ending, feel the anger, feel the confusion, feel the loss of control in our lives, and feel the anxiety. We need to have our children feel that they are in a space that feelings are meant to be felt, that they are valid. And they often don't know how to verbalize their feelings, so it presents in other ways. It presents in being clingy. My daughter's being clingy. My daughter's acted out. There's so many things going on in her head and her heart, and she doesn't know how to articulate them. That's where us as women, as mothers who know feelings, who are good with emotions, that's our quality, being feminine, is tapping into feeling and emotions, is allowing that space for our children and giving them a pathway to feel. Our feelings are valid. They are. They're not something to avoid or to skate over. They just need to be acknowledged. It doesn't mean we exhaust the issue and talk about feelings and feelings and feelings days and days and days, but it is called for a moment in time to sit there amongst those emotions and let ourselves feel. Because when we don't feel, we end up becoming numb. And that's not the solution to the problem. That step of taking note of how we feel, sifting through the mess, will help us learn how to cope in a positive way and how to, shoot down the shame and the guilt feelings that are associated with this whole issue and facing women as a whole. So how do we silence the shame and guilt? Well, let's look at some shame and guilt portals caused by this global pandemic. First, overnight, I felt like moms all over the world felt an overwhelming sense of obligation and duty to become the superstar teacher to their children. Let's be clear. We are not expected to be their full-time teacher. School, as we know, is done for the year. This is an emergency response plan. This is not normal. And so we are in plan B and C here, right? This is not the norm for any of us. Any feelings of inadequacy, of incompetence, needs to stop. Those thoughts that you're going through right now of not feeling enough, smart enough, that you're not keeping up with other parents and people that are educators, and you just don't feel like you can do it. You don't feel like you can become a full-time mom teacher and all this stuff, and you've got all these feelings of guilt, and that you're not reading enough to them, that you're not providing enough education and mental stimulation to your children, and that your kids are falling behind. We need to give those thoughts a big old shush and a shove off. That's where some of those big, guilty, shameful feelings are coming from, is that we don't feel like we're going to be good enough. Whatever grade your children are in this moment, everyone around the world, everyone is feeling the same way as we are. And we are feeling just as lost as the next person. So we got to tell ourselves there is no room for shame and guilt in this moment. We need to activate survival and thrive plans. There's no room for shame and guilt. Okay? We got to get rid of that. We've got to pave a new way for ourselves that we can survive this global pandemic without the shame and the guilt. So we need to just give ourselves a break and say, I'm going to do my best. And knowing my best is not perfect. No one is perfect. If I give it my all and my very best every single day, I'm still not going to hit the 100% mark. I'm flawed. My kids are flawed. My husband's flawed. You know, we got to say all this. We got to keep all this in mind. Are we having too high of standards for ourselves, for our partners, for our children, for the people around us? We're all in a mess. We're all dealing with different emotions, different circumstances, financial difficulties, and we're going to have to give everyone a little bit of a break on how we're reacting and how we're sifting through this. Give ourselves a break. And as long as we're doing our best, knowing our best isn't perfect, it'll give room for imperfection. Focus on teaching your kids new skills that you have, that you're good at, that you can ultimately be the greatest teacher to them because you have that skill. Teach them how to deal with adversity. Teach them grit. Teach them empathy, patience, and that it's okay to show emotion. Teach them how to budget. Teach them how to find gratitude in a bad situation. Teach them how to be of service. Teach them to think outside of the box. Teach them to be entrepreneurs. Teach them isolation is a great way to self-reflect and grow as a person. Teach them values, morals, and life skills. Teach them about nature. Those are valuable lessons in life that will carry them throughout the years. Focus on what you can teach them and not what you cannot teach them. The next portal, staying in shape and at your goal weight. Like, this one really got me because, as you know, I've written this book, Heroine, Embrace Your Flaws, Own Your Awesome. It's about various topics facing women. One of the major ones is body image. Then it's motherhood and infertility, which really loops into a lot of feelings of shame and guilt and leads to poor self-esteem, right? And now we're in the middle of an unprecedented crisis. And in the second week, I'm seeing all of these news feeds flooded with, don't let yourself get out of shape. Come on, do your workouts. No excuses. Eat healthy. Blah, 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 blah. I just want to go, shh. I want to silence. Look at the pressure put on women already. In the first few weeks of this craziness of this COVID-19 crisis, women are being faced with, oh yeah, don't let yourself go, pretty lady. You know, now we're supposed to be amazing teachers, full-time moms, figure out our businesses, stay on track financially, stay on track mentally and emotionally. Oh yeah, and have that beautiful figure and six-pack and stay in shape. Oh yeah, let's do this. Like, are you kidding me? Talk about unrealistic expectations. I cannot believe the pressure of women having this issue with body image. Still, like, why is that the focus? I don't believe that's the most important thing here. I always say, don't let the scale become the measure of your beauty, your worth, your identity. And yet, here we are, a few weeks into isolation and shutdown, and everything is being flooded with information about meal plans and exercise routines. And we need to silence the pressure, the guilt on your weight today, and the shame because you ate that muffin that you baked with your child. Oh my goodness. Let's try our best to balance a healthy lifestyle, and that includes the whole round of being a human, which is mental, physical, and spiritual. It's not just about how you look physically. It's about your mental health, emotional health, your spiritual health, your connections, staying afloat. Sometimes we have to accept, like right now, we are not going to be able to do what we did last month, to keep it up with keep up with everything. It's not going to happen. We're not going to go back to the way things were. We're not going to ease back in to whatever normal we think it is. We need to do away with that mentality and create new norms, new goals, new expectations for ourselves. We need to have balance. We need to have grace and mercy for ourselves and others, and carve out this healthy lifestyle in a new way and give ourselves and our daughters a break. Even if you gained 15 pounds over the next few months, is it really the ultimate crime to commit? Should women be shamed and feel guilty for not having the time, the means, the money, or the energy to keep up to society's unrealistic standards of what beauty is? I get so angered by this because even though these are hard times that we are in and we're all faced with our own unique situations and battles and difficulties, there is a gift here though. And I really don't want people to miss the gift in this crisis, is that we, all of a sudden, have the gift of time. We have never had so much time to think, to feel, to sit in the mess, to learn, to connect with ourselves and with others. You know what my dad always used to say? Love is spelt time, T-I-M-E. And boy, he's onto something. Isn't it amazing that money can't buy time, that perfect bodies can't buy time, that any materialistic thing that you fill your life with cannot purchase time, and therefore cannot purchase love and happiness and joy. So why not we connect the dots here and allow the time be the ultimate currency here, and let it open up different pathways and portals to inject love and passion and connection into our lives again. It is a gift. I know we're all going through some crazy hardships. I'm not going to downplay what's going on here on the negative, but there's always a positive spin to things. Even in the most horrible of situations, even if it's just to appreciate life a little more, we can find that gift in the chaos. We do have time to reevaluate what is important to ourselves. We have the time to adjust the course of our lives, our businesses, our families, our values, our dreams, and our goals. Don't allow the world's insecurities or fears dictate how you spend your time in this shutdown. Don't give in to the feelings of shame and guilt that you're not doing enough or you're doing too much. You just sit and allow yourself to appreciate time. Celebrate that you are a survivor, that you are capable, and that you are not alone in this. Sit down with a pen and paper and map out realistic goals for you and your family. Have a discussion with one of your teachers for your children, with a close friend, with a mentor, with a coach. And let's stop setting ourselves up for feelings of guilt and shame. You know, most people overestimate what they can do in a single day and underestimate what they can do in a lifetime. So that's a good, reminder for ourselves to set achievable goals for every single day. They don't have to be monstrous goals. You don't need to cure cancer. You don't need to set your kid up to be this brainiac tomorrow. Just set realistic goals. Set them in pencil if that helps. And when things go awry and things go off course in your day, you can revamp. You just erase it and add what you actually are able to do. Be realistic with yourself. Then set a 3-month plan. Set immediate goals each day, but then set a long-term plan for yourself in this crisis. Just like a birth plan, though, or a blueprint for a house or an outline for an essay, it's just that. It's a plan. but it's totally subject to change. It's not permanent. It's just a plan, something to follow, but it's fluid and able to be adjusted. That releases the pressures of the guilt and shame from the equation, allowing it to be a working document, a living thing that is subject to grow and change and be revamped, added and subtracted. Write out the top 3 values you want to stick to throughout this pandemic and this process. Then, when you're faced with changes to your goals and plans, then you can reconcile your values to the new goal or outcome. Ask yourself if this outcome is still aligned with your values. Because if it did align, that's still a win, even if you didn't accomplish everything off the list. And women are so good at making lists, right? And then we feel guilty that we don't tick everything off that list. And I'm asking you to give yourself a break and allow yourself to not tick everything off the box in the day and make aligning your values to the outcome the ultimate goal. My mantra through this crisis so far has been focus on the wins. Yesterday, I had 2 huge wins. It started my day off amazing. I was so excited, in a fantastic mood, and I allowed myself to feel happy, to really sit in that feeling of joy that I had a couple wins today. But then throughout the day, I had a few things go wrong and didn't really go according to my plan. But I couldn't let myself feel guilty or shamed or so frustrated and mad of those few things that didn't go right, because I'd rather focus on the wins. And that's what we got to do. We got to keep ourselves to task, because it's so easy to focus on the negative. That there are wins each day, and we need to shift the perspective back to the wins. We control our outlook, even if that's all we control in all of this. I control my narrative. I control how I survive this and how I come out of this. Even if I'm just treading on water, even if I'm just staying afloat, that means I didn't drown. That's a win. And I'm controlling that outlook and that perspective. And we ultimately control how much shame and guilt we feel. Yes, it's coming from the outside, but we control what happens once it's faced within us. Do we let it sink in and take root and become our reality? Or is it just a thought that comes out and I'm like, no, what's my dialogue? What's my inner dialogue doing with those thoughts of shame and guilt? I have a conversation with myself and I either discard or accept, but I'm not going to accept the shame and guilt anymore. I'm going to disregard them. And it reminds me from a quote in my book in chapter 1. I'm talking about thoughts of doubt and self-esteem issues and feeling overwhelmed with my weaknesses. And it reminded me of the book, or the tale of 2 wolves. There are 2 wolves. One wolf is a wolf of love, peace, joy, harmony, and healing. The other wolf is of evil, hatred, misery, discord, and destruction, including shame and guilt. The fact is that these 2 wolves are not in a physical sense, but are living inside of all of us. The one that we constantly feed is the one that wins. So which one of your wolves wins? Do your strengths overcome your perceptions of your weaknesses or the shame or the guilt? Or do you believe the lies? Which wolf wins? The answer is the same. It's the one you feed the most. We need to stop feeding the shame and the guilt. Be the heroine of your own story in this time. And by doing that, you're going to embrace your flaws, the mistakes, the fails, and you're going to own your awesome at the exact same time. That is what being a heroine is all about. We are in unprecedented times. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to not know what tomorrow will bring. It's okay for our kids to be overwhelmed and act out. They're sifting through different emotions as well. We aren't going to get it right every single day. we are going to lose it on our kids. We're going to lose it on our partners. We're going to lose it on ourselves. We're going to have meltdowns. We're going to have days where we don't know how we're going to do this, that we don't know how we're going to afford to live, that we don't know what our life will look like in 3 months. We are going to cry, and we are going to feel out of control. But you got to sit in those emotions for just even a bit and feel them. I'm encouraging you today to not exhaust them by exercise. Don't drown them out by alcohol, and don't be OCD and clean up the mess before you even acknowledged it. Lean into the growing pains of this process and learn what a new normal will look like for you. And focus on the fact that you either win or you learn. You never lose. Either you have a good day and a big win, or you fall and you'll learn. It's not a loss. And each day brings us a fresh new start to do our best. Again, knowing that our best is still not 100%. A mentor of mine always has told me, 80 is the new 100. If you can hit 80%, that's like 100%. That's a win. Take the 80. Don't focus on the 20% that went bad in the day. Focus on the win. Focus on the 80. 80 is the new 100. So my last point I want to touch on is being lazy is the new black. Allow this time to learn how to rest. Learn how to be comfortable in nothing to do. Learn how to be comfortable in silence and solitude. Let's get out of the busy mode that we have been in. Cleaning so crazy in a day that we don't even take a moment to sit and rest. We've got this backwards illusion that being busy is always productive, and I disagree. We got to allow ourselves to change our meaning of lazy. It's not a negative thing. Be lazy. This isn't a bad thing to be right now. Have a PJ day. Have a movie day with your children. Have a Netflix and chill night with your partner, if you know what I'm saying. Being lazy allows you to rest. It rejuvenates. It relaxes. It resets the body, mind, and soul. So many times this world has created a sense of rushing, busy, creates productivity. And as long as you're moving, you're doing something. And that's a positive. That's a good thing. And I want to dissect that and change that a bit. Of course, it's good to be productive, but being consciously productive and not avoiding other things or the silence and just doing aimless things to keep busy without even a goal in mind. If you're cleaning your floors 3 times a day, there are other ways to channel your energy, to connect back to your soul, to connect back with your children. It's so amazing what time, silence, and solitude will do for a person and a family dynamic. So let's recap what we've talked about so far. Stop feeding the shame and the guilt. Let go of unrealistic expectations. Lean into the messy process and our flaws, and allow for laziness to have a new definition in your life. Laziness has given my 6-year-old the space to think, to connect with me and her dad, to ask such deep, thought-provoking questions. And because I have embraced being lazy with her in this mess, I am able to be a mentor to her. I am able to connect on a soul level with my 6-year-old because I am not aimlessly busy about the house trying to keep busy and productive. And I'll tell you something, being still is still an action. It's still movement. It's just subtle. And it creates a pathway for profound reflections, realizations, creativity, business ideas. But you got to sit still in that mess and feel for a moment. Feel what you're going through. Don't let it become shame and guilt. Turn it into something. Turn that feeling and make it your pearl in life. And let us birth something amazing from this global pandemic. If you want to learn more about my coaching programs, purchase my book, or have me speak at your next event whenever we get out of our house at some point in this global pandemic crisis, please visit blaisehunter.com. That's it for this week's episode. Challenge yourself to be vulnerable, lean into the difficulties, and have those open conversations with yourself, your inner dialogue, and with others so we can rise up as our own heroes and let us breathe fire together. If you've enjoyed this show, please subscribe and support Blaise the Trail podcast. Thanks for listening. I'm Blaise Hunter.
You've been listening to Blaise the Trail with Blaise Hunter. To learn more about how you can breathe fire and unleash the hero within, or to listen to past episodes, visit blaisehunter.com.